Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Florian Hall for the fourth Commissioner's Commendation Ceremony of 2023. My name is Deputy Superintendent Richard Dayhill from the Commissioner's Office, and I will serve as your MC for this event. I am joined here by May Michelle Wu. Sorry. And Police Commissioner Michael Cox. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge we have City Councilor Aaron Murphy here in the room, Fire Commissioner Burke. From the Superior Officers Union, we have Sergeant Gene Carroll, Lieutenant Tim Curvin, and from the Detectives Union, we have Detective Donald Casey, Detective Troy Hartgrove, and Detective Bob Griffins. So to begin with the welcoming remark, can we welcome Police Commissioner Michael Cox.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us for our quarterly Commissioner's Accommodations here. For those of you who are new, these are our way of trying to say thank you to the men and women of the Boston Police Department, both sworn and civilian, that work every day tirelessly to help protect the citizens of Boston, and just for us to acknowledge some of the good work, because this is just a small portion of the great work that they do day in and day out. But just to acknowledge some of the work that's been going on throughout the year. And it's not just the men and women that do the job of sworn and civilian, but also the partners that we have, and we have many throughout the city that help us do our jobs on a daily basis. And so we like to recognize them, as well as some of our other public safety partners that do it as well at the same time. And so that's what this is about, and hopefully you'll enjoy hearing some of the great work that our people have been doing this last quarter here. So I know it's the holiday season. I don't know if I'm going to get to see very many of you all, but however way you celebrate this holiday, I wish you all a very good holiday with you and your families in general. And so that being said, I'm going to bring up the mayor, and then we're going to get going. So thank you very much.
And please, let's see if I can get it right this time. Please welcome Mayor Michelle Wu.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here to celebrate and honor some of our beloved heroes who have truly gone above and beyond. Just recently, we know there's a lot of conversation all the time and nonstop demands on your time and just the efforts that go in and the constant sacrifice from you and your families. So it's really important to take a moment just to pause, celebrate, and really lift up the stories that have such an impact that reflect so much of the other work that usually goes unrecognized. This honor today that the Commissioner is giving recognizes the exceptional approach that our officers take to your careers and the care and compassion you have for our residents, for our entire communities. It is often said that hard work pays off, but when it comes to this department and our first responders, you know that in keeping us safe means that hard work isn't just during the standard work day. It's often late at night, pulling you from your families, the time that you have for yourselves, and it comes with a tremendous amount of your community's time poured into it. And so I want to thank again, not only our officers, but the family members who sacrifice alongside them. Those of you who are being recognized today have protected our residents in Mattapan, Dorchester, Roxbury, Jamaica Plain, and the South End in times of need. We're recognizing also an officer and detective from the Quincy Police Department and the Boston Fire Department. You've stopped robberies, protected families experiencing domestic violence, prevented fatal tragedies, and even helped bring some people back to life. You've set an example for your fellow officers, for your neighbors, and for our whole city. Some of you have done the hard work of helping our young people with social workers through programs like Youth Connect. And we pray every day that the hard work of our officers and peacekeepers never has to come with the risk of life or violence. But as the heroes that you are for our city, you understand something that many people will never get the chance to really process, that being in the line of duty might also one day mean being in the line of fire. One of the officers being honored today was shot twice during an incident. He can't be here today, but we are indebted to him, to all of his fellow officers, and the emergency medical personnel who responded. Thank you, and I'm so glad we can recognize your sacrifice today. You show us that we are as strong as our support systems, and that life-saving support often comes from people who are brave and continue to do the right thing in the face of danger. That is the hard work that pays off for all of us across the city. And we know that you don't do it for the accolades and the medals, but that doesn't mean that you don't deserve to be recognized every single day. And so this is really important that we're getting the chance to do it just a little bit today. Your hard work strengthens the trust and love of community we have between our residents and our sworn officers. And I didn't get to see her before the ceremony started, but I hear that one of the most inspiring examples of what leadership in our neighborhoods looks like, Miss Myrtle Huggins is here. Oh, she's sitting right in front. Love you, Miss Huggins.
Thank you.
You'll hear more, and we all continue to feel the blessing of what happened and the circumstances that took place. But to be able to be here and celebrate with you and with all the people who you protect and you take care of really shows just the impact that our officers and all of our first responders have when they're responding and making sure that people in our community are safe. This is the collective work that we do together, and this is the collective good that all of our residents deserve. So congratulations and thank you to everyone here. Whether you wear a uniform or not, you all carry the courage that we aspire to, and this city is so grateful for your service. And I was just saying, I got the hat tip to them about where Ms. Huggins was from City Councilor Erin Murphy, who's here, so I wanted just to recognize Councilor Murphy. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Mayor Wu. We're going to get right into the 15 commendations. I will announce each commendation and the names of those being recognized, and will welcome a command staff member or commander to the podium to read each award. When your commendation is announced, please come forward with your certificate and join the mayor and commissioner up front. For the first award, this commendation is for Sergeant Detective John Burrows, Police Officer A1 Freeman, both assigned to District B3, and this commendation will be read by Lieutenant Detective John Fitzgerald.
Okay, good morning. Sergeant Detective Burrows, like many officers, has witnessed hundreds of victims whose lives could have been saved if they had received medical attention as soon as they were hurt. He's begun by teaching his fellow officers how to assist victims by implementing the training learned from the Stop the Bleed program developed by the American College of Surgeons. He has trained numerous officers on how to pack wounds and refreshed on our training on how to apply tourniquets properly, which has saved many lives. He has built a team of officers who now engage community members and train them on how to care for a victim. These officers teach these community partners on how to recognize life-threatening bleeding and act quickly and effectively to control bleeding through 3 quick techniques: apply pressure, pack the wound, and apply a tourniquet. Police Officer Freeman has embraced this work and assists Sergeant Detective Burrows in training members of the community. Officer Freeman has made a huge impact on District B3's response to violent crimes. This past August at the Boston Caribbean Festival, a gunshot victim ran up to some officers for assistance because he was profusely bleeding from the neck. Officer Freeman used his skills to stabilize the victim and saved his life, as he has done in several past incidents. Most recently, in November, these officers conducted a 2-day training with students from Youth Build. This is a program that trains 17 to 25-year-olds for careers in the construction industry. I visited this training session, and while present, observed incredible buy-in from the students and staff who understood the value of this life skill in an industry where accidents are common. Their work has not only saved numerous lives, but put tools in the hands of BPD personnel and community members to do the same. For their passion, hard work, and commitment to those we serve, they are each awarded a Commissioner's Commendation.
This next commendation is for Captain John Flynn, Lieutenant Detective John Fitzgerald, Sergeant Detective John Burrows, Sergeant Joseph DeVito, who is unable to attend, she's been held over at court, Sergeant Joseph McDonough, Police Officer Nadia Sikanofi, Officer Sean Harris, and from the Boston Fire Department, Lieutenant Henry Perkins. This commendation is going to be read by Superintendent Lenita Cullinade. If you could all come on up.
Good morning. Myrtle Huggins, whom many of us on the job lovingly refer to as Miss Myrtle, is a great partner to the Boston Police Department. Part of Miss Myrtle's activities include her involvement in the Apple Grove Community Group in Mattapan. The Boston Police Department, including the police commissioner, many command staff members, Boston Fire, and other agencies, and of course District 3 personnel attend these meetings. At the start of a recent Apple Grove meeting, Miss Myrtle sat down in a chair and suffered a medical emergency. Sergeant DeVito and Boston Fire Lieutenant Perkins observed Miss Myrtle to be unresponsive and guided her to the floor. Lieutenant Perkins and Sergeant Detective Burrows began CPR while Lieutenant Detective Fitzgerald located an automated external defibrillator, which Sergeant Detective Burrows used to administer a shock. Following the shock, Officer Sikanolfi detected a pulse. Captain Flynn, Lieutenant Detective Fitzgerald, Sergeants DeVito and McDonough, and Officers Sikanolfi and Harris cleared a path for EMS, and Miss Myrtle was escorted to the hospital. Boston Police and Fire members put their training to use and were able to render life-saving first aid within seconds of the victim falling into cardiac arrest, which was paramount in Miss Myrtle surviving this incident. Before we finalize this commendation, we would like to welcome Miss Myrtle to come up to the stage. So Charlie 2, please come forward. We also lovingly refer to her as the Charlie 2. The Charlie 1 is the district captain, and she is the Charlie 2. For their swift actions, teamwork, and life-saving efforts, they are each awarded a Commissioner's Commendation.
Thank you.
We'd like to invite you, Ms. Myrtle, to say a few words.
I really don't know what to say, because you know why? I'm in this area with you all, and I can almost tell you everybody in here. And I'm glad to see you all. As I live a life, I'm glad to be in this number one more time. Thank you. And I personally feel within myself that if it hadn't been for these good men here, that I would not where I've been at this time. But truly speaking, I want to say to you, I feel that it happened because the way you treat people, it comes back to you. So treat other people like you like to be treated. And when something happens, you don't have to worry about who is going to be the one to give you your last glass of water. And I had no knowledge and idea what was going on. I didn't feel bad at all. I was laughing and talking with everybody, which I can't stop doing. And I had no knowledge. And I want to tell you how it happened. I went to sit down in the chair, and I backed up in the chair like this, and I fell back in the chair. And all I know that I sat down, and I remember hitting the floor. They didn't sit me on the floor, they dropped me on the floor. I do remember that. And nothing else I remember, and when I know anything else, the EMS was showing up, and from that, but I was told that I was gone from this world 4 minutes and a half. I believe in Christians saying to people, I personally feel that God brought me back because there's something he wants me to do. He has work for me, and it might be for anybody sitting out there. But I'm going to do my best, and it's going to come from my heart. Thank you all very much. And also this morning on the TV, the same thing I went through, the nurses from New Hampshire went through the same thing that I did. And like she said, nothing was happening. All of a sudden it just hit her, and she came back to life. So thank you all very much for showing up for me. And I want you all to have a good Christmas, because I want you here this time next year.
The next commendation is for Police Officer Brian Griffin, assigned to District B3, and this commendation will be read by Captain John Flynn.
Good morning. Responding to a 911 call that came in for a person having difficulty breathing and choking. Officer Griffiths was met by a woman standing in the front of her house. She was crying hysterically while holding her 9-month-old baby. Officer Griffiths did not hesitate and immediately took the baby from the mom. The baby was clearly blue in the face and limp. Officer Griffiths assessed the situation and began to perform numerous back blows to the baby, as he was trained to do. After applying the back blows, Officer Griffiths felt the baby cough up an unknown object. The baby then regained consciousness. Officer Griffiths monitored the baby, who was now smiling and no longer in distress. EMS arrived and transported the baby to Children's Hospital. Due to Officer Griffiths' quick response and reliance on his training, he admirably performed life-saving measures in a calm and professional manner, averting a potential tragedy. For his dedication, compassion, and professionalism, he is awarded a Commissioner's Commendation.
This next commendation is for Sergeant Eric Murner, Police Officer Ryan Kelly, Officer Brendan Keelhan, assigned to District C11, and Officer Brian Piccarello, and Officer Kyle McCabe, assigned to District B2. This commendation will be read by Deputy Superintendent Pam Harris.
Thank you, Deputy Cahill. Good morning, everyone. Mayor, Commissioner, good morning. Sergeant Murner and Officers Kelly, Cohane responded to the area of Columbia Road to assist Officers Piccarello and McCabe with a subject stop immediately following a homicide that had occurred. Officers then became aware of an armed carjacking and that the car was being tracked to Dunmore Street. They immediately responded. Upon arrival, they located the vehicle, which was now unoccupied. They began to scan the area when Officer Cohane noticed a large male standing between two cars and approached him. Sergeant Murner then conducted a pat frisk and felt what he believed to be a firearm tucked in his waistband. Along with Officers Picarello and McCabe now on scene, it took all of the officers to place the suspect into custody. The firearm recovered was a loaded Glock 23 with 1 round in the chamber and 4 additional rounds in the magazine. For their bravery and sound decision-making when responding to a series of radio calls, as well as their restraint when physically engaged with an individual who is armed with a firearm, they are each awarded a Commissioner's Commendation.
This next commendation is for Sergeant Daniel Hegerich, Officer Wendy Lima, Officer Henna Lopes, assigned to District C11. Captain Sean Burns will read this commendation.
Thank you, Deputy. Officer Lopes is not available today. Also, first of all, as a commanding officer at District 11, the officers and all our personnel at District 11 welcome all of you to our community here in Dorchester. Yeah. Right? Okay, here we go. So, responding to a call for a person with a knife, Officers Lima and Lopes encountered an 11-year-old boy who stated his mother was trying to attack him. She was no longer on scene, but he reported that this was a common occurrence. Officers observed blood trails all over the residence. A 6-year-old female also told officers that her mother pulled her hair, struck her with a closed fist, and choked her. The officers observed bruising and several cuts to the child's face and neck. Officers spoke with the child's father, who stated he had been home with the children, which included also a 1-year-old female, when their mother returned intoxicated and acted erratically. He left briefly to go to the store. EMS arrived and treated all the children. Since the mother still had access to the resident, Sergeant Hegerich, who now also arrived on scene, and Officers Lima and Lopes stayed close to the scene with the plan to take positions at the front and back entrances of the building. While maintaining this presence, Sergeant Hegerich observed the 11-year-old opened the emergency door and stated his mother had returned. At the same time, Officer Lima and Lopes transmitted her return as they sprinted to the apartment. They were met by the mother, who was holding the 1-year-old in her arms. The officers safely and quickly removed the child from the mother and placed the suspect under arrest. Domestic violence incidents are among the most volatile and unpredictable incidents that an officer responds to on a daily basis. And seeing children in a tragic situation like this is difficult to handle. These officers went above and beyond and took additional steps to ensure the safety to all the children in placing an individual under arrest. For their dedication to duty and to those we serve, they are each awarded a Commissioner's Commendation. Congratulations.
Captain Burns will be reading the next commendation as well. This commendation is for police officers Tristan Champagne, Romario DePina, Chris Donlin, Dion Jones, Dale Kennedy, and John Zamito, all assigned to C11.
Good morning again. Officer Jones is not available with us today, but he also recognized. So Officer Champagne conducted a motor vehicle stop for speeding in one of our Dorchester neighborhoods, which recently has had a high spike in violent crime. While interacting with the occupants, the front passengers began moving their bodies in a concerning manner, and backup was called. Officer Champagne learned that one of the occupants had a significant firearm history and another had previously been charged with unlawful possession of ammunition. With the assistance of Officers DePina, Donlin, Jones, Kennedy, and Zamito, an exit order was issued and a pat frisk was conducted to no avail. A pat frisk was also conducted of the front passenger seat area and a firearm was located under the floor mat. Upon announcing the presence of a firearm, the front passenger fled on foot, but was quickly apprehended by officers, and the remaining occupants were secured. For their excellent work in removing an illegal firearm, as well as a person with a significant firearm history from the streets of Boston, these officers are each awarded a Commissioner's Commendation.
This next commendation is for the Youth Connect program, and it will be read by Nicole Taub, Chief of Staff from the Police Commissioner's Office. Representing Youth Connect will be Executive Director Kevin Barton, his team, Denise Karawi, Carolyn McCrossan, Stephanie Garzavila, Joanne Celia, Coral Santos, Ashley Dorr, Brooke Arrigo, and Talia Reese.
Thank you, Deputy. Good morning, everybody. As many in this room undoubtedly know, a partnership with the Boston Police Department and the Boys and Girls Club was formed in 1996. This partnership places licensed clinical social workers in Boston police stations and specialized units with frontline officers. This program is family-focused, and the program is confidential, voluntary, and free. The program primarily works with youth who are arrested or have become involved with the criminal justice system, and those who have been identified as high risk by police officers. These youth are often referred to the in-house social workers, some of whom are with us today, who will provide intake and assessment, resource coordination, clinical case management, and therapy services. Youth Connect's innovative clinical model allows social workers to work with at-risk youth and to truly make an impact on their entire family. They understand that sometimes the most effective intervention is to enhance the supports of the parent or guardian, which will in turn improve the stability of the household. Since 1996, Youth Connect has provided thousands of youth and families with a variety of intervention services designed to address these many needs. For their passion, empathy, and dedication, Youth Connect is hereby awarded a Commissioner's Special Citation.
This next commendation is for Detectives Charles Kelly and Thomas Sullivan, both assigned to C11, and from the Quincy Police Department, Detective James Menz and Police Officer Joshua Walker. And this commendation will be read by Deputy Superintendent Victor Evans.
Good morning. Responding to a shot-spotted activation on Corona Street in Dorchester, officers located a victim who stated that a woman was shooting at her. Detectives Kelly and Sullivan responded to the scene and conducted interviews. Their thorough investigation produced a suspect who was known to the victim. They immediately secured an arrest warrant and worked to coordinate the dissemination of a be on the lookout alert. As the identified suspect held addresses in 2 other communities, The detectives notified other law enforcement partners in the Quincy and Medway Police Department. Quincy Police Detective Menz issued a department-wide email for officer safety and was able to include vehicle information and the last known address of the suspect. He coordinated Quincy's efforts. Quincy Police Officer Walker spotted the vehicle and found the owner to still have an active arrest warrant. He followed her and conducted a motor vehicle stop. Knowing she may be in possession of a firearm, he read her Miranda warnings and then inquired about the shooting in Boston. The suspect stated the firearm was under the driver's seat. Officer Walker took possession of a 9mm Taurus firearm, which was loaded with a round in the chamber. She was then transported to the Quincy Police Department without incident. The Firearms Analysis Unit conducted comparisons between the Boston shooting and the previous Quincy shooting and determined this firearm had been used in both incidents. These officers did an extraordinary job in apprehending a dangerous individual and removing a firearm from the streets of Boston and Quincy. For the dedication to duty, they are each awarded a Commissioner's Commendation.
This next commendation is for Sabrina Mania Vasquez, assigned to the Technology Services Division, and will be read by Deputy Superintendent Chris Walsh.
So good morning, everyone. So just want to mention that Sabrina is a civilian member of the department, and she joined us just last year and made a great impact so far. So Sabrina was instrumental in the creation and development of a user-friendly, multi-step data collection process to aid in the recertification of Boston police officers by the Massachusetts Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission. With only a few months to work with, Sabrina was able to create a complicated behind-the-scenes system that was simple for end users to complete. Officers were emailed individual links to easily complete the required post questionnaire, and supervisors were then assigned to easily complete required post interviews of officers through a customized portal system. Multiple adjustments had been made for the system to capture all the data fields that post required. Throughout the process, Sabrina remained flexible and cheerful, making necessary changes to the system to accommodate requests. To assist project managers in the Commissioner's office, Sabrina developed a series of data dashboards and customized reports that help track progress and identify missing items for follow-up to support certification for 623 officers by the deadline. She was incredibly helpful, professional, and responsive. For these exceptional efforts, Sabrina is hereby awarded Commissioner's Commendation.
This next commendation is a unit citation for the homicide unit. Accepting the award on behalf of the unit will be the longest serving members of the unit, Sergeant Detective Sean Doherty and Detective Philip Bliss. And this commendation will be read by Deputy Superintendent Paul McLaughlin.
Thank you and good afternoon. Just so people realize, the homicide unit is made up of 49 sworn investigators, sergeants, lieutenants, 2 police officers, and an analyst, and our support staff. So 49 total people are being recognized here. Sergeant Detective Doherty, Detective Phil Bliss, each have done 13 years in the homicide unit, which Believe me, from my own experience, it's like doing it in dog years. It's a long time. So these guys are here to accept it on behalf of the unit. Many of the other detectives are here in the room, and we welcome them. The homicide unit is comprised of members who take on the daunting task of investigating murders and other suspicious deaths in Boston. Members of the unit agree to an on-call schedule that requires response at any time. On average, each homicide squad will respond to and investigate 5 homicides a year. However, they will also respond to many more instances of near or suspicious death. Those who volunteer for these positions respond to all activations of the firearms discharge investigative team and assist in preparing comprehensive reports into all firearms and less lethal discharges by Boston police officers. There are also specific investigators assigned to the Unsolved Cold Case Squad and the Fatal Accident Investigation Team. The minute a detective receives a call, they begin to gather information and adjust accordingly as new information is discovered. The detectives of the homicide unit are always careful to keep an open mind and maintain a healthy curiosity about each new development. They are supported all along the way by a dedicated analyst for the homicide unit. While solving a case is the goal, each of them knows that the ultimate proving ground is in front of a judge and a jury. The unit is proud of its high conviction rate, which shows the detail and fact-driven investigations that are being conducted on a daily basis. The unit works collaboratively with each other and with all district units and specialized units around the city, the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, and the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. The investigators are also supported by the unit's victim witness resource officers, who maintain contact with grieving loved ones and provide support to the families in their times of need. For the collective professionalism, dedication, perseverance, and skill of the members of the homicide unit, they are awarded a unit citation.
This next commendation is for Sergeant Detective Donald Keenan, Sergeant Dario Pancelli, Detective Sean Wallace, Officers Edward Gately, Raymond Liang, Kaylee Jacobs, John Boschman, Karen Murphy, and Gregory Panella, all assigned to District 4, and this will be read by Superintendent Philippe Colon.
Thank you, Deputy Cahill, and good morning, everyone. Responding to a 911 call, Officer Boschman encountered a victim who did not speak English very well. Officer Liang, who also arrived, translated and learned that the victim had been walking home when a man grabbed her, pushed her to the ground, and committed an indecent assault. A witness reported that he had took a photo of the suspect and yelled, and that the suspect fled. Officer Jacobs and Gately were securing the crime scene when they were called to another incident of an assault and battery in progress. A second woman had been attacked in the same way. They located and pursued the suspects with Officers Panella and Murphy and placed them under arrest. Sergeant Fancelli and Detective Wallace arrived and assisted. Sergeant Detective Keenan arrived and a show-up was conducted. With multiple witnesses and more than one positive identification was made. Days later, a third victim walked into the district to report a similar attack believed to have been committed by the same suspect. For their outstanding work in obtaining vital information from the victims and the witnesses, pursuing and apprehending the suspect, and the investigation that followed, they are each awarded a Commissioner's Commendation.
Here we go. And our last
And Officer Leanne can stay on the stage. Is getting a second commendation, and this commendation will be read by Captain Stephen Sweeney.
Good morning. Officer Lang responded to a larceny in progress by a known notorious shoplifter who already had 8 warrants out for his arrest. Some of these warrants included robbery and residential burglary. While en route, it was broadcast that the suspect had fled through the Copley Mall tunnel that leads directly to Back Bay Station. Officer Liang immediately changed his course and was able to intercept the suspect at the train station. The suspect was ordered to drop the bags, to which he complied. Suspect then immediately fled on foot, only to be apprehended after a brief chase by Officer Liang. When Officer Liang returned the stolen items to the store, the employees threw their hands up in the air in a celebratory manner as they had fallen victim to the suspect so many times. 2 days after the suspect's arrest, he took a plea deal at arraignment and was committed to the Suffolk County House of Correction for 2 years. Due to Officer Liang's dedication to duty, keen observation, and knowledge of his patrol area, he is hereby awarded a Commissioner's Commendation.
Captain Sweeney will also be reading this next commendation. This commendation is going to be for Sergeant James Stoddard, Police Officers Lauren Cavallari, Julie Keeler, Ryan Milliken, Gregory Rice, and Zachary Richard, all assigned to District 4.
Sergeant Stoddard couldn't be here today. He had a prior engagement. Police officers Keeler and Cavallari responded to a call for an emotionally disturbed person locked inside a room of a hotel. A hotel employee had barricaded herself in an employee office room after having a minor disagreement. Hotel staff tried to convince her to unlock the door to no avail and called the police after the victim became concerned while watching on surveillance camera as she began stabbing herself with scissors. The officers made several attempts to convince her to open the door. Sergeant Stoddard called the Boston Fire Department to assist with making a forced entry and arrived on scene with a less lethal shotgun along with Officers Rice, Milliken, and Richard. Officers made several attempts to de-escalate the situation and issued verbal commands for the individual to drop the scissors. At this time, the suspect picked up a large object and struck a back window. Officers Cavallari, Keeler, and Milliken ran outside to prevent the subject from injuring herself or jumping through the window. Simultaneously, Boston Fire Department was able to make a quick entry into the room, and officers entered with Boston EMS. The subject was swinging a large, sharp object and ran towards officers, ignoring verbal commands to stop. The less lethal beanbag was deployed, which allowed the officers to bring the situation to a safe conclusion. The team effort likely saved the life of an emotionally disturbed person while preventing harm to others. For their dedication, bravery, and swift and decisive actions, they are each awarded a Commissioner's Commendation.
This next commendation is for Police Officer Joseph Barton, assigned to E13, and Police Officer Drew Pokrant, assigned to E18. This commendation will be read by Captain Dennis Coggin.
Officer Barton could not be here today. In response to a call for a person shot Officers Pokrant and Barton arrived at the Eggleston House of Pizza and located 2 gunshot victims. The first victim was seriously wounded with a gunshot wound to the chest. Officer Barton applied continuous pressure to the gunshot wound, employing multiple towels in an effort to stop the profuse bleeding. Officer Pokrant, displaying remarkable skill and resourcefulness, retrieved a medical chest seal from his medical kit and applied the chest seal to the wound. Both victims were transported to the hospital where the attending doctor emphasized that without their intervention, the victim with the chest wound most likely would have died. For their quick response, personal courage in the face of dire circumstances, and their commitment to the safety of the residents of District E13, they are each awarded a Commissioner's Commendation.
And then this final commendation is for police officers Quentin Pilgrim, Carlton Williamson, Mary Kate Legacy, Brittany Freeman, Sean Gannon, Patrick Foley, Jeffrey Galanis, Shay Myers, Detective Patrick Flaherty, Detective Christopher Kennedy, John Nicholas, and Anton Ramos, all assigned to District B2, and Sergeant Brian Holmes, assigned to District B3. This commendation will be read by Lieutenant Brian McManus.
Good afternoon, everybody. Following an armed robbery of a pizza delivery driver, a BPD officer proactively placed himself on a Code 19 walk and talk in the vicinity of the incident. He observed the suspect exiting a building dressed identically to the description provided for the previous robbery. He also observed an unoccupied pizza delivery vehicle. As the officer went to further investigate, he was met by the delivery driver, who was walking out of the building with his hands up, followed by the suspect, who was pointing a gun at the driver. Without hesitation, the officer confronted the armed suspect, initiating pursuit as the suspect retreated up a stairwell. The suspect turned and fired his weapon, striking the officer in the foot. As the officer tried to take cover, another shot was fired, striking him in the lower back area. Despite sustaining injuries, the officer immediately notified operations of his location, suspect details, and the extent of his injuries. Officer Legacy, on a Code 19 a block away, arrived on scene first. She pulled the officer away from an exposed window and out of harm's way to safety behind a vehicle and assessed his injuries. Officers Freeman and Myers arrived and provided medical assistance and immediately transported the officer to the hospital for further medical treatment. Detectives Ramos, Flaherty, Kennedy, Nicholas, and officers Williamson, Foley, Gannon, Pilgrim, and Jelinas arrived and began clearing the building. When they arrived on the 3rd floor, Officer Jelinas found the suspect lying on the roof of an adjacent building. Officers Williamson and Pilgrim chased the suspect on the rooftop. The suspect jumped off the rooftop into a grassy alleyway. Sergeant Holmes observed the jump, scaled the fence, and apprehended the suspect. Officers were then able to collect vital evidence from the scene. Detectives Ramos and Nicholas worked tirelessly on their investigation, which included the shot-spotted detection system, viewing over 130 body-worn camera videos, and collecting additional evidence from the Nashua Street Jail. The injured officer could not be here today to a scheduled conflict, but will be recognized in the future. His fellow officers showed selfless bravery by coming to his aid and pursuing the assailants, who showed no hesitation in shooting a Boston police officer. The valor displayed by these officers, who risked their safety to aid a fellow officer and pursue the assailant, speaks volumes about their bravery, dedication, support for each other, and commitment to community safety. In recognition for their extraordinary efforts, each officer is hereby awarded a Commissioner's Commendation.
I want to thank everybody for attending today, and thanks to all the recipients for your excellent work. To conclude today's ceremony, Commissioner Cox will give a final remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Before we conclude and say a couple of things, I just want to take a moment and ask everyone, could we have just a moment of silence for Officer Paul Tracy from Waltham and the National Grid worker Roderick Jackson for the recent death at a detail that a lot of officers participate in on a daily basis. So if you can join me, please. Thank you. You know, if you've never been to one of these before, I mean, this is a good taste of all the different ways in which our men and women that work in our police department and the people that we partner with to keep the city safe. I mean, we literally save lives. We prevent things from happening. We catch people and hold people accountable for heinous acts, you know, that society demands that we're supposed to do that for. And they do this on a daily basis. This is a very tough job, but it's an important job, and we need more people to want to join us. So if any of you all in the audience know people that want to give back, who want to save lives, who care about the city and people like we do, you know, please remind them that we have openings and we need more and more good people because we have a lot of work to do in general. I am very proud of all the men and women in our department, both sworn and civilians, and all our partners that join us every day in trying to keep everyone safe. We are the best police department in the country, there's no doubt about that, but we need more to stay that way. So for all the men and women that work in our place, I wish you all, again, happy holiday season. Unfortunately, I know some of you could be working during those holidays in general, but we appreciate you, we thank you, we value you, and we wish you the best for your families. And for the families that are here, thank you for the sacrifice you all make on a daily basis when you allow them to come here to work and miss so many opportunities at home, particularly during the holidays. We appreciate you as well. So enjoy the holiday season, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. Okay, take care.